Friends, very good morning to and good afternoon to each one of you. Uh, in this In Conversation with series, I've been interviewing experts from different domains, public figures, doctors, business captains, so on and so forth. Today's show, we have an expert with us, who's Mr. R.R. Padmanabhan. Let me introduce Mr. R.R. Padmanabhan before we get on to the show. Mr. R.R. Padmanabhan is MBA BL, Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport UK. He's a Principal Consultant of Exim Consultants, Chennai, and he's a Director, Founder of Exim Academy, Chennai, and he's a partner of R. Ramachandra Rao and Sons, Chennai, which is more than, I think, 5-decade-old custom house agent organization. And he's a Chairman, Foreign Trade Subcommittee, and Chairman of Skill Development Subcommittee of Andhra Chamber of Commerce. Andhra Chamber of Commerce is a 92-year-old organization spread across 3 southern states of India: Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana, having 4 offices: Chennai, Hyderabad, Vizag, and Vijayawada. He has translated, it's a very, very interesting update for many of you. He has translated from Tamil to English 23 books on Siddha literature, and he also wrote biography on SNR, Sri late SNR of Coimbatore. He was a chairman of Ramakrishna Group of Companies at Coimbatore. And Mr. R.R. Padmanabhan is an author. He wrote a book on export startups, a book for export entrepreneurs, which was released by Tamil Nadu minister some time ago, a couple of years ago in Chennai. He's married and blessed with 2 angels, proud grandparents of a baby boy and a baby girl. And also Mr. R.R. Padmanabhan has a blog which he writes consistently over the time under the name called Paddy's Corner. He's also fondly called Paddy by many of his professional circle and Padu by many of his friends circle. With that brief introduction, I welcome Mr. R.R. Padmanabhan. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction.
Sir, in this current scenario, all of us are talking about post-COVID, new normal. All the jargons are, every day we are hearing from different quarters of our society. I'd like to focus primarily on export-import, which is your core domain. You have been in the industry for a long time. I have a series of questions which I thought on behalf of the entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs who wanted to get into export business. I'd like to share these questions to you. I seek your wisdom on this.
Yeah.
The question number 1 goes like this: what are the inherent strengths of Indian economy to start with?
Yeah. Somehow our psyche has not been on looking at positive aspects of the Indian economy. The first and foremost, the strength of Indian economy is its population. We are a huge population. You may remember we had worst crisis in 2008. At that time also India was not affected much. We could come out very easily, primarily because our strength is in the population, and the population consumes whatever we produce of goods and services. That is number 1. And the increasing trend. Earlier, the Indian population was looked more as a liability. No longer. It's an asset now. We have one of the largest skilled youth available in the world today with us. That's number 1. And number 2, a vast landscape. That's very interesting. You see, even in US or in China for that matter, 4 months they cannot do agriculture. They get frozen. In India, you don't have, we have agriculture in all the 4 seasons. Somewhere something is going on. Given the right policy framework, which is coming now, I'll deal with that aspect subsequently, and the aptitude of our Indian entrepreneurs. India could be a major fruit and vegetable basket of the world.
Mhm.
We can produce so much.
Mhm.
So apart from the population and this land mass, we have a very strong army and nuclear capabilities. Then unlimited natural resources. Some of the natural resources we are either in number one or number two. Coal, we have huge deposits. Thorium, one of the largest deposit holders in the world. Like that, there are many natural resources. So to qualify to be a superpower, these five things are essential. We have all that. This is the inherent strength of the Indian economy. Population, land mass, abundant natural resources, military capability with the nuclear arsenal. These are the things which make India a strong economy.
Okay. So all the four seasons we can cultivate and produce products and supply to the rest of the world.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's interesting. But are we doing it?
That's the question. I would say yes and no. See, it's like this. We have been fed on the information that we are a poor nation. We are a poor nation. Yes, we were. We should say definitely we didn't have the means. We didn't have the technology. We didn't have the attitude to go and get it. After the liberalization, things have really changed. Really changed. Slowly, there has been incremental efforts, both by the government as well as by the people. I tell you one very interesting example. You know the moringa?
Yes.
It's grown only in tropical country.
Okay.
In fact, it is maybe in suburbs of Chennai. It is there every house.
Correct.
It is such a powerful drug for many illnesses.
Oh.
Right. Okay. And it's in the form of a green, right? It has to be processed and taken in the form which somebody can consume. This was not happening quite some time back. How things have changed from nowhere to now here. That's what I'm coming to.
Okay.
Now, recently, a company from Madurai, they have manufactured, and I saw in 200 ml bottle, it's very easy to immediately consume. All that you need is take a 5 ml, 10 ml,
Correct.
mix it with water and take it. And that improves your immune system. That I was using during this COVID period.
Oh.
And it has gone through all the FSCA standards, all the standards it has gone into. That means it is available in the form of a ready-to-eat processed, which you can consume immediately.
Okay. Packaged properly.
Packaged properly. Like this, we have many in India. We have many in India. So this is how we are getting transformed, but people are not noticing it. Suddenly you will find so many things happening around us. Okay, all that you need to do is you found something what the market wants. Give it to them the way market wants it.
Okay.
It is available in the raw form. Give it to them in the way the market wants it.
Okay. Is it because even though we have the resources in place in the country, plenty, is it because we lack in terms of packaging it, marketing, branding, and taking the supply chain to the end customer, which is not happening from remote locations of the country?
Yes.
So I think series of education has to be done to the farmers and many other people who are involved in this cultivation.
I would say putting all these skills into one thing as entrepreneurial skills. Okay. An entrepreneur is one who looks at any challenge as an opportunity, right? Okay, you have branding, you're not able to brand it, you don't have the technology. Yes, find the technology.
Okay.
Find the technology. It is available now. It is available. All that you need to do is see, there is no easy way. All that you need to do is try to find a technology or innovate.
Mm,
It is available.
mm,
You got to do it. It is available.
mm,
In one single word, I would say the lack of entrepreneurial skills.
mm.
That is what is lagging behind in India.
Okay. So, can you throw some light on like 3 to 5 steps one has to do to reach that position? Having the resources plenty. So, can you show some 5-step plan for since you are an author of a book, Export Startups. So, suppose I have a product. I am a farmer. I am in a rural India. I have something very niche I can produce in my land, and I need to take this product to the consumer. So, what are the 5 steps involved or 6 steps involved?
Yeah. So here I assume you have found the market, right?
Yes.
That means there is a demand,
Correct.
right? Let's say now this is the mango season,
Mm.
okay? And mango is one thing which has got a big history, and all over the world, if you go, particularly if you go in this season, they'll ask, "Can you bring some mangoes?" That means mangoes they want, right? What are the things in between
Mm.
we and their need for mango? And mango being it's a perishable commodity. It's available only for 3 months in a year. Particularly in southern part of India, it's available only in this period.
Correct.
So if I have to reach out to that place, I have to start planning year zero. Now today, let's say it's year one. I have to start planning in year zero.
Mm.
It has to reach in a way that they are able to consume it within 3 days.
Correct.
So it has to be, it should not be ripe. One. And number two, all these good markets are there in Europe, US, of course, in some other countries like Vietnam also, we have a good market.
Mm.
Let's say European and US market. They're so clear about the pesticide levels in the fruit.
Correct.
In our anxiety to produce more, we have started using more pesticides. So that gives more results, good productivity. But pesticides, yes, production goes up, but it is also harmful and market does not want it.
Mm.
Okay. So pesticide level has to be down. To what extent it has to be down? There are certain standards. Okay. So we call it as HACCP. Those standards have been developed by the US, and there are government institutes offering consultancy on that. How to produce mangoes that conform to US standards.
Okay. The norms they have to maintain.
The norms. So that means, so I said, now we are in year one. You have to plan much before that to produce the kind of mangoes.
Very true. Very true.
So that is number one. And number two, even as the growing is going on, the field operations are going on, what to do, you'll have to be very careful. The plucking, how it needs to be done. Skilled work. You'll have to engage skilled people. Then packing. And finally, logistics. Then, what kind of market you are going to cater? That you have to be clear. Are you going to cater directly to the retail market, or you are going to employ an agent or somebody who can import in bulk and distribute? Now I have seen the recent trends. People have developed mango farms, organic or natural.
Correct.
Farms. I keep getting messages. If you want, okay, you give me your orders online. Okay.
Mm.
So what sort of business model you are going to adapt, that you have to be clear. Either it's a retail directly to them or
Correct.
to the wholesaler, whatever it is.
Yes.
If it is retail, then engage with a good courier company.
Okay.
Sometimes we used to laugh at certain cost. For example, a kilo of mango would cost around, let's say, 100 rupees. But if you're sending it to a country like Brazil, it will cost 2,800 rupees per kilo.
Okay. Okay.
it sounds ridiculous, but the cost.
Mm.
But that's the cost. Okay. Indian mangoes are, people are so crazy about Indian mangoes.
Okay.
Such a luscious fruit, just sweet one. You will never find in any part of the world, any part of the world. So coming back to your question of those 5 steps, finding out what the market wants and adhering to it is the first and second step. And growing according to their conditions inside your farm is the third step. Fourth one is how are you going to pluck it and packaging it? Finally, logistics. These are the 5 steps in this kind of a export scenario.
Absolutely. So the entire business life cycle, what you said right now, from farm to fork, the entire process has been, I think, consistently been educated to the end mass, right? Like MSME Development Institute or any of the academy which teaches on export import. I guess they're all teaching more and more people. But only thing is awareness is still not there as much as it has to be, right?
Yeah. One thing is, I would say, uh, the entrepreneurial spirit means patience.
Okay.
So if I talk to a farmer, I'll tell him, look, you got so much, it's possible to sell it at this price. He'll say, okay, get me an order. I don't want to do my homework, let somebody else do it. Okay. Yes, there may be some company we will give that kind of solutions also, but definitely for that he is going to take his cut. And remember, as a farmer, for if you are giving you're taking a solution from a marketing company, you will become in due course one of the farmers. You will be some other farmer.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So you don't enjoy the entire value. You'll have to part with it to somebody else. People are not patient. They don't want to learn.
Mhm.
I'm seeing this trend. They always blame the system, blame the lack of opportunity.
Mhm.
It's not like that.
Okay.
All that there are now, it's a good sign that's coming up. The educated people are coming into this field now, particularly this agriculture. The value added agriculture, that's what we call it.
Mhm.
So now people are aware, okay, for this, I need to do this 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me tick 1, 2, 3, 4. So that kind of patience is coming up. And then the ecosystem is also developing now. Okay. The funds are no longer a problem.
Okay.
If it's a right project, you get your money.
Mhm.
There are people willing to invest. That means they are willing to take risk along with you.
Okay.
So the system is rightly there. Only thing is you need to be in the right place with the right thinking to tap it rightly.
Wonderful. I guess your export startups covers extensively on these areas.
Yeah, of course, of
I've
course.
gone through the book and it's very, very interesting. Sir, I'll move on to the next question from macro to micro. Of course, it is again a macro question. Exports are falling left, right, and center. So, what is the way out?
Yeah, the exports are falling not because of us. See, there is a globally weak demand, and crude oil prices are going down. Both these two factors are affecting the demand worldwide. Naturally, see, exports are falling not only for India, it's falling for every other country.
Correct.
There is sort of a depressed sentiment in the world market. Okay, you will be astonished to find. You know what is the price of crude today? Can you guess?
I don't know.
Zero.
Okay.
Don't
Okay.
take guess. Have you taken your vehicle now, these 2, 3 months?
No.
That means no filling up of gas,
Correct.
no sale of petrol or diesel,
Correct. Correct.
no demand, no demand. All the crude vessels are waiting near the port so somebody will buy.
That is
For
very,
zero.
that is very dangerous situation, right?
Extremely dangerous. It has positive effects also. Okay, to that extent, our outgo of foreign exchange is going to come down. I agree. No. What I'm coming to say is exports are falling continuously, not now. It has been falling for the past 2 years. It is because of the world demand. It has come down. Crude oil prices, another reason for world demand coming down, crude oil prices are coming down. These two are the reasons why the exports are falling. At the same time, our imports are also falling. Nobody's talking about it.
That's right.
Our imports are also falling.
Mm.
Right. Now, what do we do for this? Okay. World market, you cannot do anything. Can you do anything about the world market? It's not
Nothing.
in your hands.
Yes.
What you can do in India, sitting here, both private and the government, are to do certain steps.
Mm.
From the government side, there have been a lot of efforts, incremental efforts on a day-to-day basis. I'm closely watching what this government is doing.
Okay.
Most certainly, most of them are quite encouraging. Most of the problems for the exports are the prices. We are not competitive in the world market.
Okay.
Why we are not competitive? There are several reasons. Okay. Along with us, there are many people who are competing for the world market along with you, like, for example, Vietnam. Vietnam is a major competitor for us. Bangladesh is a major competitor for us. Sri Lanka is competing with us. And there are many countries which are competing with us in the to have the share of the world market. What we can do, first thing is, the duty we call it as a duty drawback. It is a concept, in exports, you can only export the goods, not the duties. When you export the goods, the duties involved in the manufacture of the goods should come out. This is the policy worldwide. All the countries are practicing. A robust duty drawback system that takes care of taking out the tax input and giving it back to the exporter is the first step.
Okay.
It is there in India, but it is not 100% foolproof.
Okay.
We have one thing called inverted duty structure. If you buy a component from outside, the duty rate is less. Whereas if you want to manufacture the same component in India, the raw material prices, the duty on it is high.
Okay.
So on raw material, the duty rates are high. On finished goods, the duty rate is less. Which one you would prefer? You would prefer finished goods.
Correct.
That has to be reversed. I mean, it's a long process. I mean, we can very easily say it. We'll have to identify. We'll have to bring it to the notice of the government, and things will go on. That is on the easy to do in the import scenario. Same thing. Imagine in an export scenario. In the entire export, let's say there is one export good. There are two ways which it attracts duties. One is if there is import component in that product, there will be customs duty and other duties. Then you have your GST. A well robust system by which these are taken out is the one which is required. Does not mean we do not have it now. It is a work in progress.
Okay.
It is a work in progress. Things will have to be identified and these have to be rectified.
Okay.
So that is number one. And number two, availability of credit. Recently, government also came out with a policy on recently, June 3rd or May 20th. Finance Minister has been on record. She has given lots of the policy framework and all that. If I have an order, the first problem is the money.
Correct.
Either I have my own source of money, or somebody finances it, or banks come to my rescue. Most of the time, option 1 and 2 are not available. Okay. Almost, I would say about 70% of the businesses live on hand-to-mouth existence, or what I call as check-to-check existence.
Okay. Okay.
Check comes for, let's say, lakh, you have an expense for 1.5 lakh. Okay, that's how the whole thing runs. So now the credit must be available freely, and at what cost? The rates are very high. The rates must be less, and availability also should be free. The availability of credit is very important for the export to kickstart. Then the regulations have to be simplified. There are definitely particularly in the past, I should say 5-6 years, regulations are being simplified, but it's not sufficient. I should use the word calibrated steps are being taken by the government. So it requires much more much more easing of regulations. It should not be a barrier. Oh, customs formality, I don't know all that. No, it should not be. It should be extremely transparent. Extremely transparent, very easy.
Seamless.
Yes,
Seamless.
seamless. Government has taken a lot of steps, which I will talk about it subsequently. So the simplification of regulations. Then there should be cooperation among the economic players. All the economic players must play their part very clearly and in a mood of cooperation. And exports, whose baby it is? You tell me whose baby it is. I'm an exporter. If you want me to export, who should take the first lead? I got to take. There must be a enabling environment. Whose responsibility it is? Which government?
Central government.
Yes, that is where the problem comes. It is not central government alone that can do wonders. The state governments should also participate. That's why I said whose baby it is. It is not the baby of the government of India.
It is everybody. Everybody won't be.
Should join together. Everybody should join together. It is as though, oh, government of India is giving a foreign trade policy, is an exporter, let them go do the job. No. The state government should also be an active player in this process.
Very true.
That is being addressed. In fact, many states have announced an export policy of their own.
Oh, individual states.
Individual states started announcing export policy.
Okay.
For example, Tamil Nadu has its own advantages. Okay, you can only play to your advantage. So Tamil Nadu should form an export policy based on the advantages that it has. Okay, Maharashtra has an export policy. Every state has slowly started announcing export policies. So that export policy should be in synchronicity with the government of India's policy. In turn, it is going to benefit the end exporter.
Right.
How the other governments work. I tell you one very interesting example. We participated in an exhibition in China way back. I forgot the name of the exhibition. By 5, it starts at around 8:30. By 5 o'clock, it's closed. Okay. On the last day, we were there, and when we were coming out in a Chinese stall, there were so many literature books about that company, and they're going to leave it and come out. I asked them, "Come on, why are you leaving it? You must have spent a lot of money on it." He said, "I cannot carry it. It's so heavy." And number two, the entire money for printing this has come from the government.
Oh, okay.
You see how the government's proactively in the process of supporting the exporters. That's not available in India.
Sir, here I have one question. We're talking about the challenges and the possibilities on exporters. The exports are falling at this point in time. There is something called service exports.
Yeah.
Software companies who are also doing exports, right? Typically, they're also generating revenue from software exports.
Yeah, of course, I do agree. But for in terms of incentives, they are not recognized as exports.
Okay.
Service exporters, there is an incentive called Service Export from India scheme. It's an incentive. For that purpose, software export is not an export.
Oh, okay. How does it call them? How do you call them?
That is software export.
Okay. But they cannot enjoy the benefits.
In this benefit, there must be other benefits which I am not totally aware of. For example, you may have some income tax benefit and all that, and you will enjoy. You can be in your SEZ or any other
tax-free benefits.
Those things are there, but this incentive business is not there for software. Software doesn't have a big advantage. Yes.
I don't know, but I'm out of my innocence. Question I'm asking you. I don't find any of the software exporters try like how the normal exporters try in the other areas like garment, leather, textile. So is it true or I'm looking at something wrong?
See, two things you cannot compare. These two things, software exports and physical exports. Software export is invisible. Correct? You cannot see. You can only say, I'm into software exporting. What do you show? Some bunch of papers or pen drive. That's what you can show.
Yeah.
You cannot really compare. You cannot compare. That's why they are not visible.
Even the price drop or there is no grip on pricing. Pricing, I don't know. Internally, they may have their own price war between the other organizations. But I don't find such a cry allowable in software exports, to the best of my knowledge. I don't know. I need to speak to the experts from software industry to talk about it. Anyway.
Yeah, it's better to the question address the question to them.
Yes. In fact, I'm going to have in conversation with one Mr. Kumar Rajagopalan of DICES, country head and vice president, next couple of days.
Okay.
I'm going to throw this question to him as well. So I'll go to the next question, which is what are the sectors that will see growth?
One more thing, what we need to do for increasing expo, I'll complete and then we'll push it.
Yeah.
Branding we don't have. Brand India. Okay, it's coming from India. That should command premium in the world market. There is brand equity which the government of India has started, but there must be a lot of activities from the government side as well as from the private players side to increase the awareness about the Indian products, Indian services, Indian agriculture. Somehow the Chinese have captured the market. First, they started with what? Price. In price, they hit. Okay. And slowly, it becomes volume business. So much so, now in imports, 14% of what we import are from China.
It is inevitable, right? China is inevitable. We cannot say we will not buy from China.
Yes.
Many people talk about let us ban China, let us not buy from China. Is it anyway ever going to happen like that?
Okay, that's not possible. Certainly, it is not possible, but we can bring it down to some concerted efforts. If, after all, if we can get a product at the same price and at the same quality, definitely I'm going to buy from India. Right? I will give you an example of what it is. You must be knowing that company from Coimbatore. They were the color sorting machinery.
Correct. A lot of companies are there, yes.
A lot of companies are there. So they were sending it to Sri Lanka. First competition was from China.
Okay.
But in our field visit, we found the Indian machinery was preferred over the Chinese machinery in terms of quality. But in terms of price and credit, Chinese were scoring.
Absolutely.
Those who want quality, they'll come to India, Indian machinery. Okay. Those who they don't bother about quality, price is very important. They want good credit. Instead of paying in 2 months, 3 months, they want to pay after 1 year. Okay. So choice is yours. Now, slowly we are getting into a niche position where people have started identifying the Indian products with quality.
Okay, that's a good sign.
That's a very good sign. That's a very good sign.
We have to encourage those producers, right? Manufacturers.
Yes. And there must be concerted efforts about taking these things abroad. I tell you, for example, this mango. This season, there must be mango festivals all over the world.
Okay.
Or at least, let's say mango season is in somewhere, starts from May, June, July, like that it goes. That's for South Indian mangoes. Yes. The western side, slightly more. So ideally, we should start this kind of a thing sometime before the Christmas.
Correct.
All over Europe.
Correct.
Mango festivals. All our members should be tasked with this festival. Look, mango is there available in India. What do you want?
Okay. Ahead of time, they have to start.
They have to start. Like this, our embassy should showcase
Mm,
our commercial power.
mm.
What are all things available in India? They must demonstrate.
Correct. Correct. So ultimately, we need to market ourselves. We are very poor at
Exactly.
marketing ourselves.
We are not good at marketing.
We are highly credible, but we are not visible.
We are not visible. Exactly. You said it. We are not visible. We are not.
We need to strike a balance between credibility and visibility consistently.
See how Chinese. I'll tell you one more example. See, we are having huge deposits of granites. After the Soviet Union broke up into small pieces and became Russia and all that CSR countries, Soviet Union was a big market, right?
Mm.
We lost that business.
Oh.
You know who took that? The Chinese, who don't have a single granite.
Oh.
Granite from us, processed it and exported to Russia.
Oh.
Who is to blame for this?
Very smart people.
Very smart people. But who is to blame? Indian exporters.
Correct.
That's it. Okay, go to the next question.
I'll go to the next question. Next question is, what are the sectors that will see growth post-COVID scenario?
Yeah. Good things to look at the positive side of this. One is education, online tutoring. It will see a big growth. Okay. It is no longer what should I say, something that was happening. Now it is normal. Even in our academy, we started online classes.
Courses, okay.
Online classes. The courses which were going on physical side, now they have all been converted into online.
Could you share something about your academy? What exactly you do?
Yeah. We are into teaching business. We train people on international business and international logistics.
Okay.
Our academy is called as EXIM Academy. We are authorized training partner of Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport UK.
Okay.
I'm their fellow. We provide their certification courses in South India.
Okay. In Chennai.
In Chennai. So this kind of online education will see a big shift, very big shift, and the cost of the courses also will come down because there is no investment in infrastructure.
Correct. A laptop and internet connection is okay, or mobile with internet connection.
That's all. That will see.
I was talking to some musicians. Some of the musicians, the Carnatic singers whom I know, but they are not number one rank, but they are number 3, number 4 layer. They were all saying that we have all the talents, we are at home, in fact they are all struggling to survive actually in the current scenario. There is no revenue, there is no kacheri for them. So I said, why don't you just start offering this through your YouTube channel and start doing it? Many people are not technology savvy.
Yes.
They don't know where to begin, how to begin.
Yes.
Imagine the kind of wealth what we have from music alone is something exclusive for Indian. The strength is concerned. So how do these people can take their services to the end mass, the rest of the world? Do you have any suggestions for the musicians, especially?
Yeah. See, the first, either they learn the technology or they have somebody who knows the technology. Somebody like you who can help them in putting them to showcase their talent.
Right.
Now I see in YouTube, this is where the people in Europe and US, they simply flood the market, particularly in this self-improvement program.
Correct.
How many people are there from the West? Definitely, we are also having so many people from our side, but I'm seeing very little of them in the YouTube channels.
Correct.
First, they start with a sample video. Slowly, then you start watching. Then they start sending their offer. Okay, one day they'll say it's only $7 per month.
Correct.
Okay? You sign up. Then the message comes $7 per month every month. Does it end? We don't know. Okay. They're so smart. They are so smart, right? So that is the kind of approach we should adapt. First, let them start giving 1.5 minutes, small videos. Let it flat, and it is a long game. There are a large number of players, large number of customers.
Consumers, correct, absolutely. Especially even if you take Indian context, 130 crore population, 1.3 billion people. Even our own services can be marketed rest of the states. Suppose, for example, we are all Tamilians, we are in Chennai, so we can actually export our own services to other states.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So of course it cannot be considered as export. I'm just saying.
Okay, no. See, once you are in the, we call it in economics as a perfect competition. Large number of buyers, large number of sellers. So build up. Now, if you start, let's say day one, perhaps in a year, you are in the recall mode. Oh, sea change is doing this. They are into this. They are into this. Like that, it slowly, it picks up. For the music, I have a very interesting thing. There are Indian diaspora all over the world.
Correct.
All over the world. Indian music, Indian yoga, Ayurveda, all these things have good following in the world market. First is the Indians themselves. I know many people, of course not large numbers, but significant numbers, coming from countries like Mauritius, Sierra Leone. Okay, they can't even speak Tamil, but they look like you and me. They want to know their daughters to know the Indian culture. They send their daughters here to Chennai to learn Sangeetam.
Okay.
Karnataka music, Karnataka Sangeetam, Bharatanatyam. Okay. Now, instead of they coming, be there on the YouTube, online. Offer your service.
Absolutely.
All that you need to do is first make a physical, the digital presence. Then you can market it across. There are 44 countries in which Tamilians have presence all over the world. What about the other South Indian communities? Think.
Correct. I mean, digital presence is what is going to drive the entire economy to the next level, which everybody has realized now.
Yeah.
Thanks for that input as well. And I'll go to the next question, sir.
No, there is something which I have not finished on the sectors that will drive.
Yeah.
E-retail will see a significant increase. Yeah, and then medical, online, telemedicine, teleconsulting, pharma. These are all the sectors which will see a big rise. Very big rise we will see. And then IT-enabled services, which I said recently, IT-enabled services. Then you will also see a reverse globalization. Okay. For example, US requires some product, okay? Instead of depending on China or from India, they would like to depend on Mexico.
Okay.
Nearby, no?
Correct. They can save cost.
Save cost. Nearby, it is not in US. It will be costly. So they will put it in Brazil or Mexico. So you will see reverse globalization. Wherever sectors which are willing to undertake this, they will do well.
But all said and done, I think India is much more competitive than the rest of the world. Because after all, I was told that many people, even France, is advising India to produce antibiotics for vaccine for COVID because we charge, very less compared to. Suppose if this is invented outside, they will charge a hell of a lot of money, whereas Indian producers, they will not.
Yeah, that is a fact. That's the structural nature of the Indian pharmaceutical industry. Government has done a plenty of job in protecting the pharmaceutical industry and given them a right policy framework. One thing that I should also tell you, there was recently a talk of many of the Japanese companies coming to India and all that stuff. You remember?
Yes.
About last month or 2 months ago.
Yes.
The first sign, 40 companies, they want to move out of China. Do you think all of them will come to India?
They will not.
They will not
They
come.
have options. Oh, okay.
They will not come. I think around 30 of them went to Vietnam.
We have not received anybody.
Nothing.
That's very sad news.
They have gone to Vietnam and some of them have gone to Thailand. Okay? After that, I started reading in the newspapers that government is now coming up with a lot of land banks and all that stuff. See, in India, when they come, they want to plug and play. We do have certain infrastructure, but certainly in many areas we are found wanting.
Actually, my next question is all about that. In fact, you can connect that particular dot also here. What is the stage of infrastructure in India?
Certainly, there has been a big improvement. We should definitely, by any popularly accepted standards, there can be no question of the amount of infrastructural development that has happened in India.
Absolutely.
Some time back, about 20 years back, I went to Singapore for the first time. I saw the metro. I was so, oh my God, when am I going to have it in India? Now, metro is there in Chennai.
Yes.
There are about 13 cities across India. So in terms of infrastructure, we have definitely done a significant work, but that is not sufficient. For a country of this size, the infrastructure should be much higher. From the export angle, I will tell you. In China, okay, supposing material has come, vessel has arrived, I have to go and take the material, my container. How much time do you think it will take, and who will go for clearance? Any idea?
I think it's fully automated.
Okay.
100% automated, maybe just in time concept, maybe 2 to 3 hours time.
Okay. You come nearer, but if I tell you specifics, you will be really surprised. That taking delivery is not a skilled job there now. Now it's a skilled job in India.
Oh.
It takes just 2 hours to clear a consignment in China. You know who will go to take delivery? The truck driver.
Okay.
Just the truck driver. System is fully automated, transparent, everything online. Those things have come to in India also, but not to that extent. It is not an issue. Getting delivery of the consignment is not an issue there.
But I have a question, sir. I want to intervene here. If you bring too much of automation, the kind of population what we have, we're losing a lot of jobs.
That is, I won't.
The whole story, of course, like a banking industry.
No. Yes, but I wanted to tell you that it may be boring, but still, you know, when the computerization was introduced way back in 80s, 84, 85, 86, during Rajiv Gandhi period, it took a big leap. Every day after the lunch hours, there will be a dharna in every bank branch. Down. All the bank employees will come out. They'll say, no computers. Now, can you imagine even at home we have a computer. Can you imagine a bank branch without a computer? Has it led to lots of jobs?
I don't know, because I'm looking at from the population perspective. We need to bridge the gap, and proper balance is required.
Skill gap is required. Skill gap is to be addressed. We need people, in fact, that I'll talk to you later. We need people with the digital literacy.
Correct.
We don't want people with the 2 hands and legs. We need people with the digital literacy. That is very important. Not even an ordinary literacy. We need people with the digital literacy. If that is there, see, where we are going to see a big shift. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, analytics. We'll see a big growth in the time to come. Only India is capable of supplying that kind of manpower.
Absolutely.
Our strength is in English language.
Right.
Supposing some car gets stuck in US, it has to be helped through a helpline. Where do you think the call will land? Only in India. Only we can do. So these kind of automation will never result in loss of jobs, perhaps loss of those kind of job description. Certain jobs will get eliminated, new jobs will come.
But we need to empower the youth.
That is important.
From college days, from school days itself.
From school days, they have to be empowered.
Okay. That's really good. So I'll go to the next. I have another 2 questions to wind up this session.
2 more things I thought I could. Good news I would like to share. One is, People always complain, oh, in India, everything is late, everything is late, everything is not happening. I'm happy to share. In ease of doing business, India is in 63. From 148, we came down to 63.
Oh, wonderful. It's interesting.
Okay.
It's good news.
The
Yes.
government intention is to bring it down to 10.
Okay.
Top 10.
Okay.
There are many things like that. In logistics efficiency, we were in some 63. Now we are in 44.
Okay.
These are all the positive things.
So a lot of people are working on it. We don't know.
Exactly. There is a separate department for logistics now, unheard of. In Commerce in the Ministry, there is a special secretary logistics now.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much for those insights. And the next question is, what about government reforms, policies, reforms?
Yeah, plenty. Slowly, incrementally, it is coming in small dosages. Recently, you could have read in papers. There's going to be a faceless assessment. You know what it means? The goods come to India, they have to be assessed for of its value for duty purposes. So far, how it has been? Okay, once the goods have come, I go file a bill of entry, give all the documents. Then an officer sits, looks into the whole thing. He says, okay, correct, pay the duty. Now, there is an interface between the person doing this job and the officer. Now, I think from day before yesterday or yesterday, I think. In Chennai and Bangalore, Customs has introduced faceless assessment. Means a person sitting here, I am filing a bill of entry online, it will be assessed by somebody sitting somewhere.
Okay.
Not the officer in Chennai. That means the interface between the officer and the party is zero.
Which means it brings a lot of transparency.
Exactly. A lot of transparency. That is something quite a significant thing that has happened. A significant thing that has happened in India, which I have to tell it to you. Then there is another concept which many people are not aware. There is something called free trade warehousing zone. Okay. Let's say I am an MNC. I have both Indian market as well as South Asian market. Let's say I have a Sri Lankan market. So what I can do is I can open my shop using one of those premises in the free trade warehousing zone. I think in Chennai there are 2. As a foreign entity, I don't have to have an Indian entity. I can as well start a company. Open the shop in the name of the foreign company itself in free trade warehousing zone. When I import from the airport or the seaport, directly goods will go and be there without paying duty. If I sell it in India, pay duty. Or if I export it to Sri Lanka, no duty.
Okay.
Something phenomenal. Huh?
Absolutely.
Phenomenal. Not many people are aware. I'm telling to my people contacts, look, this is the facility that we have in India. And then the tax rates have also come down for people who are into the SEZs and all that stuff. Tax rates have come down. And then there are sector-specific policies. Like, for example, textiles, electronics, logistics. So sector-specific policies are coming. These are all the government reforms that are happening. And recently I saw one for MSMEs called Champions.
Correct. Champions, they just released about a week ago, 10 days ago. Yeah.
So where the MSME should come forward to use all these facilities.
Correct.
They don't come out of their workshops. They have to spend some time in developing their businesses. The government policies are there. The facilities are there. You go and take it. You see, what are the ways by which you become eligible for that? Spend some time. Have the right people to advise you. These are all the government reforms that are coming up in a very big way.
Okay. These are all, I think, structural changes they're trying to bring in.
Yes,
but
yes.
But it will get manifested over the period of time. I think 3 years, 5 years down the line.
I don't see becoming like that because the awareness has come up. Like this, because of technology, many people are aware of all this.
I guess this is where your chamber initiatives also helps. Since you are also part of Andhra Chamber of Commerce, and Chamber of Foreign Trade. I guess you educate people by conducting workshops, seminars,
Yes,
lecture
yes.
series, and things like
Yeah,
that.
we have two subcommittees. I mean, we are totally about 26 subcommittees, which you are also aware and part of it.
Yeah.
I head two subcommittees. One is foreign trade and another is skill development. Under foreign trade subcommittee, we advise clients whenever there is any issues, advise our members any issues. For example, somebody came, asked for a free sale certificate. What is a free sale certificate? At what stage it is given? Who is giving it? Why he is giving it? Not many people are aware. Then I advise the person, you don't need a free sale certificate. These are all the critical things which we support our members in the Andhra Chamber. And we have every second Saturday, it's a free consultancy meet. People can come and take our, like me, there are many experts on all the required business domains, labor, indirect taxes, direct taxes, foreign trade, the standards, like that, they can come and take our advice free. This chamber has been doing for the past more than 5 decades.
Yes, that's really fantastic. Many people don't know.
Many people don't know. Many people don't know. That's the point.
Correct. Correct.
And even recently, also for one of our members, he has been stuck with the IGST refund for the past 2.5 years. Some systemic problem. I mean, it is not the intention of the government to hold your money. It's a what should I say? It's a problem in the system which they are not able to address. So what we did, we prepared a memorandum of prayer, and through the chamber we send it to all the concerned departments. Please look into this, like that. So say when the child goes from the chamber, it will get the eyes of the people concerned. No? That's the kind of critical input the chamber can do.
Okay. Okay. That's fantastic. I think the viewers who are in the export business can actually log on to andhrachamber.com to get more information on this. And sir, we have come to the end of the session with the last question to you. The question is, how does skill gap affect Indian business?
Yeah, there are certain macro studies. One is by International Labour Organization. It says by the year 2030, India will have 29 million loss of jobs because of this skill gap. Main thing what I see is the digital illiteracy. I tell you an example. We are training engineering graduates and other arts and science graduates also, but most of the people who come to us are engineering graduates from different colleges. We teach some logistics, international business and all that stuff. But when we send them for interview, this was a biggest surprise for us. The companies wanted them to be proficient in MS Excel. Is it a big thing? Our boys did not know.
Okay.
An engineering graduate not aware of Excel. What to do with that fellow? He's an engineer. MS Office is very important now. You need to know all that. Then we simply went to the design board back, drawing board, then reoriented because we call ourselves as somebody who can give skilled people to the industry. So in our curriculum, we introduced this also.
Okay.
This digital illiteracy has to be addressed. One important factor, now world is a market. World is a market. Same thing what I said for the music people. You have to go all out, No longer you can sit at home. You can be a local and go global.
It's a global village, as we call it.
It's a real global village.
I think this can be addressed only by educating students, educating the youth of this country with the options available. See, the moment when we go for lectures, instead of focusing more on the domain, we can also focus on the opportunities exist in the marketplace and different sector that will open up horizon to them. Oh, I can get into this kind of model, or I can get into this kind of field. I mean, all the lecturers, people who go as a domain expert, I think they should also talk about the opportunities exist in the global village,
Yeah, of course.
which will create interest among the students.
Yeah.
Okay.
The digital illiteracy is the biggest factor that has to be addressed first. And then the kind of education system that we have, it has been addressed. I should say now I am seeing in the school curriculum has been changed. They are trying to change the this college curriculum also in tune with this.
Yes.
Everyone who is coming out of school or college should have a skill that can feed him. You can get a chartered accountant in every corner of the street. Can you get a plumber? Can you get an electrician?
Correct.
You can get an electrician.
Vocational skills. Right.
These are vocational skills. These skills must be taught at the school level itself, preferably after the 8th standard. So when he comes out, he will have confidence. Okay. Suppose it is torn, a button is torn. Can you stitch it by yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have to do it by myself. I must learn. Those are the life skills.
Correct.
And right time is schools. For the employable purposes, the college graduates or people who are into colleges. Now these days there are morning shift and afternoon shift. Once the college is over, what do the boys do? We don't know. No control. Nothing. They are not with the homes. They are not in colleges. Then where are they? What are they doing? What are they doing in their precious time? Preferably, they should be attached to a company, near to their college, near to their houses.
Absolutely.
Okay. So they have to work for an organization for 3 hours a day, 2.5 hours a day, 4 hours a day. So they know once they are out. I think this system is followed in Germany. So people who are coming out of these colleges, they already know something about production or about sales or about finance. So they come out with a vocational skill. They're confident enough to face the world.
Correct. Correct. In fact, from Sea Change, we talk about going beyond theory. We say every college student, final year, even second year. In fact, we recruit people who are doing college. In fact, you are doing it in your own office.
Yes.
So people come here after shift hours, the college student. They work for 3 to 3.5 hours in my office. And we pay them small money also.
Yes.
So they should not be, availed without any charges, without any fees for time being spent, the labor being given. So the local organizations, small companies like small businesses can actually hire college students nearby
Yes.
and give them an opportunity. Also little money. They will also work for 3 to 4 hours for your business.
Yes. 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 So it is a collective effort.
The industry institution connect is what is really required.
Yes. Yes.
Which will resolve the problem of this skill gap deficiency, the inefficiency in the system.
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful, sir. I think we have come to the last portion of the session. So thank you very much for your time. And I guess you have covered length and breadth of export-import business policy to practicality. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll come back to you with another occasion for more and more insights.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.